Hello and welcome back to the EMJ PGA podcast. This is episode 24. Thank you very, very much to all of you who are tuning in. As you can see, it is just me, myself and I again for today's podcast. Unfortunately, Ben can't make it. He's in a meeting at the time of recording. So we're going to miss Ben for this initial review, but do not worry. Our regular favourite co-host will be joining us for the late week podcast, in which we will have plenty to discuss, plenty to debate and mull over for you guys over the weekend of listening, which it'll probably be as it's the late podcast. Speaking of late week listening, thank you to all of you who tuned into the Masters review. I was really, really impressed and happy to see how many of you interacted with that, considering the podcast came out later than we would have liked. It was a little bit off schedule and not quite how we planned it around Masters Week, especially post Masters Week. But there we are. We are fresh into another week and fresh off another signature event on the PGA Tour. It's not going to be the longest podcast in the world again. I think you guys enjoy kind of the smaller, condensed podcasts, and obviously I know I don't have Ben to pass over the discussion to for him to come out with his outlandish comments and opinions. But the good thing about me being by myself is that hopefully I'm not going to blabber on too long, and it probably doesn't do any good for my kind of internal criticism, which is that I just blabber on too much about random stuff. It's not going to help me in curing that, but I'm going to try and make this podcast as concise as possible for you guys. Apologies if I do ramble on about some random stuff, probably like I'm doing now. Hosting podcasts, hosting videos by myself is still something that I'm getting used to, adjusting to, and therefore hopefully you can just bear with me just a little bit. RBC Heritage Week. Before that, obviously I'm going to get Ben's thoughts. Me and Ben played golf yesterday. I am still in post poor round of golf depression, I would say. You know that feeling when like you're so up for a round of golf and then you just let yourself down? Like, I haven't felt a feeling like that in a good while. I was so up for a round of golf. Thank you very, very much to the Astbury who hosted us yesterday. We had a fantastic round of golf, fantastic conditions. Course was set up fantastically. They must have had some sort of club comp on, because there was some awful tight cut pins around the track yesterday. But honest to God, I mean, there could not be more in contrast with this week's winner in the PGA Tour, on the PGA Tour, between him and myself, both from a probably overall ability level and performance level, because goodness me, my putting let me down big time. If you guys are listening to this, let us know the weaknesses in your game. Comment or get in touch with us about the weakness in your game and how hard are you trying to fix it. Now, granted, I've only spent 1 week fully trying to fix the weakness in my game, or the weakness that has been in my game. I'm going to try not to negatively self-talk myself about this, but my putting is just, oh, I want to say some bad things about it, but I'm going to try and keep it as PG as possible here, especially as I'm on a solo podcast. I nearly lost 100% of my strokes gained through putting yesterday, and it's just like, what the hell is going on? And you practice all week and you get your confidence up all week to then go and not make anything outside 3 foot. And I'm not exactly, apart from on the 18th, I made an 8 footer or a 10 footer for par on the 18th. I did not make anything outside 3 foot, and I just am a golf professional at no ends when it comes to fixing my putting at the moment. I feel like I can do a good job of steering myself in a good general direction, and the changes that I've made in this last week, I feel like have been absolutely and really positive. And as far as into my warm-up yesterday, I was feeling really, really good. And then that quickly left me getting to the second hole yesterday. So stick or twist a little bit. I'm inclined to stick with the changes that I've made off the back of just having one bad round, but it was one round as bad as it's ever been yesterday. So I am not too impressed with myself, to say the least. That is my weekend golf review. I hope you guys got out. We had a solid bit of weather this weekend. Was coaching on Saturday. Weather was tolerable on Saturday. It was a little bit hit and miss. It chucked it down a couple of times. But the weather was gorgeous on Sunday. It's been gorgeous again today, which is Monday. Which is when I'm recording this for you guys. So I hope you guys are getting out onto the golf course and enjoying yourselves. Onto the PGA Tour, and onto one of my favourite events of the year, because it's the RBC Heritage at Harbour Town Golf Links, South Carolina. One of my favourite golf courses to watch, and annoyingly, I didn't get a chance to watch much of it. As I said, I was golfing yesterday into the evening. I was busy, so I caught the end of the very end of the golf. I had to go back and check the highlights, caught bits on Friday and Saturday night, but not a whole lot of sitting and watching like it was on Masters Week. So a bit unfortunate, but as is life, as is our busy schedules. Matt Fitzpatrick picking up the playoff victory over Scottie Scheffler. And if Ben was on here, what he'd be telling us about is how quick people are to lose leads on the PGA Tour at the moment. I mean, it's the trend. It's people who are leading into the final day seem to have a problem with holding on as we are into 2026. But Matt Fitzpatrick, by the skin of his teeth, did hold on, and he held on in a way where I feel like he can almost take more confidence from it. The conditions were tough. It was really, really blustery in that final round, especially over at Harbour Town. Distance control seemed to be tough, even for Scottie Scheffler, the master of distance control. It seemed to be a real, real challenge for them. But he seems to come out on top, and he played a really, really solid final round. Okay, he did mess up that last hole, didn't get up and down to get himself a victory, but he played really, really solid golf. It wasn't a roller coaster where 1 minute is brilliant, the next minute he's dropping shots. It was just very level, very steady. And to do that as well, paired with Scheffler, knowing he's breathing down your neck, not to make any drastic mistakes, it shows the minerals of the guy, in my opinion. You know, Matt Fitzpatrick, when it comes to European players, is probably one of those people that you'd trust under pressure. I always remember when he got thrust into his first Ryder Cup appearance in 2016 at Hazeltine. Never know how you pronounce that properly. Hazeltine, and seeing him out there, and thinking this is a step up early on in the career for Matt Fitzpatrick. But 10 years on, he's one of the more assured players that we have as Europeans, even maybe more popular or well-known players, you wouldn't trust them going into a final round, and as much as you trust Fitzpatrick. And yes, he's had a narrow miss at the Players this year, but he picks up his second win of 2026 and his second win at the RBC Heritage, which is, as he proclaims, his favourite event. He went on holiday multiple times to Harbour Town as a kid. You know, he's got a real connection with that golf course, as I'm sure a lot of a lot of people have, Americans and international players alike. So he gets on really, really well with the golf course, and that was evident coming into the week. He should have been a pick. Me and Ben did not pick him, and again, hindsight's a bit of a pain, but we should have picked him. Um, Coming down the stretch, he did three whack on 15, the par 5 15th, which was disappointing. And he definitely would have been someone who no, sorry, he didn't pick up a birdie on 15, which was probably one of those deciding factors when it came down the stretch. And then obviously we spoke about the up and down. You know, he needed to get up and down from right of the green on 18, and his pitch shot wasn't to the standard that he would have wanted. You know, he didn't catch the bank, leading it down to the pin, chipping back into the wind by all accounts. He didn't get that right. However, come the playoff, he stepped up, and he stepped up massively. Really interesting. It was the shot of the day. Let's just speak about it. Really, really interesting from a strategic point of view. And I've been doing a few on-course lessons recently, and this has come into discussion in a couple of those on-course lessons. One thing that you guys as amateurs, mostly amateurs, I'm sure that are listening to this, need to take into account is the amount of top level pros that miss to their advantage. And what I mean by that is as Scottie Scheffler's probably made this a bit more in trend. I'm hearing more about it now than I ever did growing up or ever since I've been a coach, is that you're aiming to the fat part of greens and you're looking to shape the ball in a way where if you miss it, it's going to be to your advantage, i.e. closer to the pin. Um, and Matt Fitzpatrick did that in the playoff hole on the 18th. He pulled it onto his target. He admitted that in the post-tournament press conference. So if you're ever stuck over an approach shot and you don't really know, it looks like a tight pin and you're getting complicated, or there's hazards everywhere, I don't want to hit a bad shot, simplify it, aim to the fat part of the green, and if you're really at a high level, you can have a think about if you can match the ball flight to the side of the green that you want to miss, or the side of the green that the flag is obviously positioned. Matt Fitzpatrick, we did a film room episode a couple of weeks ago about how he's changed his natural ball flight. I've seen the pull cuts Instagram claim him as a pull cutter now, which is crazy to think about the sort of the strides that he's taken with his long game. But yeah, he fell back on that kind of almost pull draw when it came to his miss in the playoff on 18. He confessed to obviously aiming to the fat part of the green over on the right. That was the bailout area. Over on that right side, obviously, it's marshy, water hazard over on the left side of 18, infamous 18th hole. And he's pulled it straight back onto the pin and he's hit it to 15 foot with a 4-iron straight back into the wind. I mean, it's an absolutely fantastic golf shot. And his hand came off the club. So as soon as you hit it, you're panicking. How does the ball carry? That was the first thing I did message Ben. I said, I cannot believe it. I mean, whenever you see a ball flight like that sort of looks like it turns quite early in its flight, the first presumption is, oh, he's towed it, so it's going to take 10, 15 yards off the carry distance, especially with a 4-iron. But it was a sweetly struck pull, which probably added 5 yards of carry distance on to probably where he was aiming, and that brought it to its resting point, as I said, 15 foot long of the pin. Absolutely fantastic. And then the putt to match is fantastic. I know the slope is helping and everything seems to funnel down towards that pin. Fantastic pin, cut near trouble, but the slope riding towards it. Yeah, I mean, absolutely fantastic from Matt Fitzpatrick. And a little bit of this towards the American crowd, who were getting real loud and boisterous when he messed it up on 18. That's always sweet when you can get one over the crowd. And I'm actually quite liking the way that the crowd are getting a bit more interactive with Europeans and doing all this, because I do find that interesting how we can abuse McIlroy's wife and all his personal stuff. And okay, how much it was going on, that's by the by. I've heard different things from different people, but we can clearly say some outrageous stuff towards family members of European players in the Ryder Cup. But then as soon as it's not the Ryder Cup, as soon as it's the Masters, we're Team Rory and XYZ when it comes to European players. I do quite like the patriotism when it comes to these events, but they were getting loud and boisterous, and it's always nice to be able to get one over on that American crowd as an Englishman or a European in that situation. So fair play to Matt Fitzpatrick. And whilst we're on Matt Fitzpatrick, the second time he's done this, because Ollie Barrett, guest co-host, awarded him Heater of the Week for his win at the Valspar a couple of weeks ago. I am going to do the same, a win and a Heater of the Week performance. Of course, we're going to roll the tape now for this week's Heater of the Week. I'm so keen for this. Heater of the Week. Heater of the Week. Heater of the Week. Heater of the Week. Around 260.
He's kind of on a heater.
A 9 under par Sunday round 63.
One of my greatest heaters.
4 birdies in a row, 12 through 15, and then another one on 17 to seal the deal. He's bogey free, 63. In terms of the heat of the heater, 62, 10 under par. You are my Heater of the Week for this week. Okay, then we are back with another Heater of the Week. As I just mentioned, Matt Fitzpatrick is picking up this week's Heater of the Week. There were some worthy contenders. Ludwig Aberg, round 163, the same score as obviously what Matt Fitzpatrick shot in round 2. And Scottie Scheffler had a round 364, which was really, really solid from him. So he came close to picking up. He hasn't won Heater of the Week yet, funnily enough, Scottie Scheffler. So it's interesting to It's interesting that he hasn't picked up one yet, because he's definitely been well worthy over the last few years of winning a few in his time. So I'm sure one will be coming his way soon. But as I said, Matt Fitzpatrick, congratulations. You are the winner this week of the Heater of the Week. As I said, second round 63, 8 under par, bogey free, 8 bogeys. Just as clean of a heater of a round as you're ever really going to see in terms of the scorecard. There were some fortuitous breaks that came his way during that round as well. But as I said at the start of the podcast, it couldn't be more different from me. I mean, the guy will again hit a poor approach shot, hit a poor drive, kind of punch it to the front of the green, and then make a 45 footer, or he'll get a lucky break somewhere and he'll chip in, and that was the story of Fitzpatrick's round on Friday. Still chipping in, holing, boxing, lag putts as we'd probably call them. They all go well on their way to helping you pick up a Heater of the Week award, and that's what Matt Fitzpatrick did. So congratulations to Matt Fitzpatrick. He picks up his second win at the RBC Heritage, and we will get Ben's thoughts later on in the week. As I said, we will be into the Miami Championship at the Blue Monster by the time you guys hear it on Thursday. But I know Ben's thoughts. I mean, the first thing he messaged me, he again called him a neek, and he said, "What the hell's going on here?" So we'll be interested to hear Ben's opinion about Matt Fitzpatrick's win. We will get his note on it very soon for you. Okay, then. Not going to dive too deep into too many players this episode. As I said, I don't want to keep the podcast from going on too long. But I did want to follow up something that I spoke about last week on the Masters review, and that is this week's runner-up, Scottie Scheffler. Obviously, whenever you've got a world number one, he's going to be the topic of conversation. And he's going to be the topic of criticism when he's maybe not up to his best. And the first thing that I said about Scottie Scheffler is back-to-back second places, and I sort of made a note to myself, is he back? Well, back's a bit of a strong word. Did he ever go anywhere? I mean, he's not missed any cuts. He has been super consistent when it comes to putting in consistent weeks of at least one or two really, really good rounds of golf. Okay, the only thing setting him back is he's had a couple of rounds in and amongst those weeks that have really set him back. You think of Friday just last week at the Masters. You think of the opening round struggles he seemed to have at the start of the year at the Genesis and the Waste Management Venus Open. So if you take those out and just make them tolerable rounds, he's probably got 2 more wins to his name than he would have done in this position. As I said, to this point, only picking up the American Express, which was the first week of reviews that we did on this podcast. It seems like a lifetime ago. Episode 24 we're on now. That was Scottie Scheffler's first and only win of 2026 so far. So he's finished second place yet again. And tournament notes, obviously, he had that heater on Saturday, 64, put him in position, put him 3 shots back from Fitzpatrick going into Sunday, put him in that final group, which is exactly where he would have wanted to be. And we're going to come on to that in just a moment. But fantastic short game. Everyone got Scheffler, tee to green, myself included. That's the thing that we look at, tee to green. If that's not firing, then where is it going to come from? But I thought his short game really, really stood out on Sunday, especially. A little pitch shot from the downslope on the 9th, running it up the green, really, really good shot there. Bunker shot on 15 was fantastic, and of course the up and down on 18 to ensure that he got in the playoff and put the pressure on Fitzpatrick. Him going first probably gave it that match play style situation where Fitzpatrick felt like he needed to match it, when in reality, if someone said to you, Matt, you've got to get up and down from just right at the green here on 18 to win the golf tournament, you'd like to think that 8-9 times out of 10 with that pitch shot you'd be able to do it. But Scheffler just going first and just putting that first little blow in probably influenced Fitzpatrick's underwhelming pitch shot in that moment. So I thought that was really, really good from Scottie Scheffler. But, and this isn't me trying to cause trouble here. This is not me trying to cause trouble. I will openly say this. Hopefully, Scottie Scheffler, if you're listening to this, first of all, I'm honoured. Okay? 24 episodes into this podcast, I'm honoured if you hear this, or anybody connected to you hears this. I mean this out of a topic of purely conversation only. Purely statistical or statistically driven debate, let's just call it. I made a kind of throwaway comment last week when it came to Scottie Scheffler, and I said when he wins tournaments, he wins from the front, and it never seems to be one where he's in a battle with someone else and he comes out on top. Now, that was a throwaway comment because in his short still career at the top level, there has been instances where he's battled away and um he's beat other pros to the victory in close margin victories. So it's not like it's never happened, okay? But my point is, when do we see Scheffler get the clubhouse lead and kind of pick up the victory? You know, this is a skill within itself because sometimes it's harder to win. Sometimes it's harder to win from the front than it is from maybe back in the pack. You know, and getting in the clubhouse early, that could be argued. But when do we ever see that? When do we ever see like, oh, it's Scheffler or this person who's going to come out on top? And it got me thinking: does Scheffler have a 1v1 problem? You know, I like in sports, and especially in American sports, which you guys probably don't know how closely you follow American sports, probably not as close as maybe I do, but sometimes you get teams in the NFL. American football's kind of my guilty pleasure sport of choice. Sometimes you get teams, and my team's been one of these in the past few years, where if they get out to an early lead, you're confident because they're set up and their team is built in a way where if they get up to an early lead, they can kind of put their foot down and it suits their style of play better. Whereas even if it's against a team that's not as good, if they get into a little bit of a 1v1 or a battle, they always seem to come off second best. Are they a bit of a backyard bully as a team? And is Scheffler a golf version of that? And it got me thinking, does he, quote unquote, have a 1v1 problem? Now, skipping forwards, because I don't really know what order I want to do this in. Skipping forwards, when you look at his Ryder Cup record, and I know Ryder Cup's got nothing to do with PGA Tour form. Famously, Tiger Woods, best golfer to ever play, in mine and Ben's opinion, and most people's opinion, in my opinion. How many times do I say opinion? Famously, Tiger Woods doesn't have the best Ryder Cup record when it comes to win percentage. And so that's kind of always the thing where I look at Ryder Cup records separate from how good you are as a player. I think you can kind of look at that and make it as a fair assessment. However, if you do put that aside, the Ryder Cup's one of the one things, especially when it comes to singles matches, that you can hold your hat on and go, okay, because he's played 3 Ryder Cup singles matches, he's won 2 of them, lost 0 and half 1. So that's quite that's quite a noteworthy point that we've got to make. However, when it comes to winning golf tournaments, I went through and I calculated some stats myself, in particular this one stat. Okay. And that is the average win margin on tour that he has. Okay. And then I just thought I'd compare it to other generational players. Okay. Obviously, one that he's sharing, Rory McIlroy, and then the other one being Tiger Woods. Obviously, you could go back in Jack Nicklaus's era and look at Nicklaus. You could look at Snead. But it was a very, very different landscape of the game back then. So you can't really look to put too much merit into that, okay? But cutting to the point, okay? His average win margin on tour is 3.375 strokes. So when he wins by an average of 3.375 strokes. There's a couple of adjustments that I've made to that. One of them being I did not include the Tour Championship where they gave him a head start, the staggered start. Absolute ridiculous sort of. I can understand what they were thinking, but anyway, that's a conversation for another day. I took that out, so that's excluding that where he won by four shots, the Tour Championship in 2024. So he wins by an average of 3.375 strokes per event, and the Tour average is between 1.5 to 2 strokes per tournament win. So I found that really interesting that he wins more than the typical amount. Is that because he's a good player, or is that because he wins when he only blows away the field and he gets out to a lead early and he gets in that momentum and he starts cantering away? When you start to push back against him, does he start to crumble? So then I looked a little bit more into this, okay? And I looked at his career playoff record, which obviously now has another stroke next to it because he participated in one just last night from the time of recording. He's now 3 wins and 3 losses in his career in playoffs, is Scottie Scheffler. So in 6 playoffs, he's won 3, lost 3. So I'm going to put him in comparison again. This isn't easy comparison, okay? But I'm going to use Rory McIlroy and then Tiger Woods as kind of baselines to just sort of reference, okay? Rory McIlroy's been in 10 playoffs in his career. He's won 6, lost 4, okay? So 60% win rate when it comes to playoffs, okay? You could argue that could be better. Playoffs, you could argue they're toss a coin kind of thing. Whatever. Tiger Woods has been in 12 playoffs in his career. He's won 11 and lost 1. Okay? That's absolutely ridiculous. He is Tiger Woods, of course. But that's point number 1 to go, okay, well, Scheffler's currently 50% win ratio when it goes to playoffs. And Tiger Woods is obviously well above that mark of 50%. And then here's another stat which I really, really liked, and I calculated this again myself, okay? This is a stat that I made up called the win to second place ratio, okay? And the merit that you put in this is how many times do you win versus how many times do you come second, okay? So for every second place that you earn, how many times do you win versus that amount, okay? So Scottie Scheffler, I calculated it as 0.6. So every time he comes second, he wins 0.6 of an event. Okay, on average. All right. Rory McIlroy, for reference, is 2.3. So for every second place finish he has, he wins 2.3 times, which is crazy when you think about it. And again, Tiger Woods, famously 82 PGA Tour victories. He's finished second 31 times. Okay, and that makes his win to second ratio 2.6. So again, for every time he finishes second, he wins 2.6 times. Okay. Now Scottie Scheffler's down there at 0.6. Again, it's kind of like he's close to that 50%, or closer. I mean, not quite bang on because he's 0.6 away, but he's closer to that. Every time he wins, he comes second. He's like tossing a coin whether he wins when he's in contention or not. And that's obviously not factoring in the blowout victories that he has. And then if we do just look at their Ryder Cup records, incidentally, Scottie Scheffler's overall, and I know a lot goes into the Ryder Cup record, okay, I do appreciate this, but Scottie Scheffler's Ryder Cup record is he has a 37.5% win percentage. Tiger Woods, who we famously said has been famously poor in the Ryder Cup, and I know, as I said, a lot goes into it, but Tiger Woods' win percentage in the Ryder Cup is 39%, and Rory McIlroy is obviously quite exponentially high. He loves the Ryder Cup. He's up at 58%. Now, what am I saying here? What's my point that I'm trying to make? I just want you to pay attention to next time and watch him. Next time Scheffler will win in like some sort of crazy shootout in a major and just make me shut the hell up. But I think I said this in the Masters preview. When Scottie Scheffler, I think I said, if Scottie Scheffler's on the first page of the leaderboard going into the weekend, you've got to be concerned. I should have rephrased that. I said if Scottie Scheffler's in the lead going into the weekend, then you should be concerned. Because when it comes to battling it out, when it comes to hard fought wins, it seems like they've happened less and less as his career's gone on, probably as he's got better as a player. But just something to look out for. Just something to look out for because in those closely hard fought tournaments, Scottie Scheffler comes out surprisingly second best more than you'd think. And I just think that that's something to look at. And you compare him to Tiger Woods, you see that all the time. Oh, versus Tiger Woods at this age, at this point in his career, this is where we're at. Scheffler, record-setting pace, unbelievable. 20 PGA Tour wins he's at now. And he's only really had a tour card for 6 years. That's an absolutely unbelievable. He only picked up his first win in 2022. So he's really been trying to win tournaments or been winning tournaments for 3 of those 6 years, 4 of those 6 years. And he's won 20 times. That's an average of 5 wins per year if you do the maths from when he started winning. Is absolutely fantastic, absolutely incredible. But yeah, just something to look out for. Even against McIlroy, you just can maybe put that against him. Is that in a 1v1 duel, McIlroy, this supposed bottle job, can't get over the line, etc., etc. As until 12, 13 months ago, Scottie Scheffler is not maybe the nailed-on winner in those times as you might think he might be. So yeah, just thought I'd bring that up for you guys listening. Finishing off the roundup from this week's golf. Siwoo Kim in third. What a year Siwoo Kim's having. His bank account, his family, his wife, if he's got one, his girlfriend. Absolutely. I mean, Chanel bags coming in, Dior bags. Every time this guy tees it up, I don't know what they kind of like the South Korean population when it comes to luxury items, but his better half would probably be getting a fair share of them because he tees it up, and once every 2 weeks he finishes in the top 10. Siwoo Kim, and I'd be gobsmacked if he doesn't pick up a win in one of these events maybe later on in the year once all the majors are out the way and the PGA Tour seems to be on a little bit of a maybe towards the Tour Championship or after. If Siwoo Kim picks up a win, I would not be at all surprised. Harish English in fourth, as was Colin Morikawa, who's bounced back really, really quickly from that back injury at the Players' Championship, which was just over a month ago now, which is pretty crazy to think about, but he hasn't really seemed to drop off since, which is crazy. And then Ludwig Aberg, who I said was in contention when it came to Heater of the Week, got off to a good start early, but as I'm sure if you listen to the full Masters review podcast, Ben mentioned that Ludwig Aberg won't be winning after that hot start at the Heritage, and he was absolutely correct. I mean, be great to see Aberg get over the line, but again, you talk about that win ratio from winning positions. I think Aberg's won 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 now when he's led going into the final round. That is not a good statistic, and that is not good for building confidence as well. So difficult for Ludwig Aberg. Obviously, I'm not going to harp on him too much there, but yeah, you put an 8 under par round in there, the joint best of the week, and you don't really give it maybe more of a shot than he did. It just shows that it's kind of that one ridiculously hot round, and then he just never seems to follow it up with, even if it's remotely consistent, 2-3 under par rounds, kind of stuttering his way to the finish line a lot of these weeks. So it'll be great to see him get over that hump and maybe pick up a win in the not too distant future. Okay, then, we are around 31 minutes into this podcast, but it's where we're going to be drawing it to a close. As I said, Ben will be back for you guys on Thursday. We are going to get guests back on here. We're going to get into the routine of getting guests back on. We haven't had a guest on in a good amount of time, so we are going to get guests back on here very, very soon. And rolling our way into the PGA Championship, because that's something that I'm sure we're all looking forward to over at Aronimink, which we're all looking forward to as a new venue. Me and Ben will be keen to preview that. And as I said, the Late Week podcast, we are going to include some fun topics full of debate. It's always fun when me and Ben get into a bit of a golf debate. And so we will do that for you guys and look forward to doing that as well. I don't often do this, okay, because I don't want to be that beg, but keep liking the podcast, keep sharing it. If you know someone who likes golf or is thinking of getting into golf, share it to them. Share this podcast to them. We try and strike the balance between analytical but kind of light-hearted reviews when it comes to PGA Tour and European Tour or DP World Tour events. Golf news as well. Is Live Golf going bust? Is it going under? There was a Live Golf this week in Mexico City. I haven't spent much time looking at that or reviewing that, so I don't have much to report back on. But we try and review the golf as level-headed as we can, whilst also throwing in a little bit of flavour. So if you like that, please share it to somebody that you know. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We're at 20 subscribers now on YouTube, which is absolutely fantastic. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but 20 people subscribing to our podcast channel is fantastic. There's obviously a big 3-number figure that we want to try and get to very, very soon, and hopefully if we keep liking, sharing, if you guys keep liking and sharing the podcast, we might be able to get there. We've got some really, really good content coming your way leading into the Open at the back end of the summer, and yeah, we really want as many of you on board to be watching that and listening to that as possible. So yeah, please keep sharing it. And if you are a listener, thank you so much for listening. Leave a review of our podcast. Leave a 5-star review if you can, if you like it. Leave a 1-star review if you think it's shite. But yeah, a review would be amazing, and it is massively, massively appreciated. Thinking of doing another film room soon. You guys seem to like that, which was really, really good. So yeah, thinking of doing a film room soon. I will try and cook up that if I find the spare time. The chances are I will be on the putting green after my ridiculously poor performance when it comes to golf this weekend. So yeah, we will see if I find time for that. Thank you very much for listening, guys. I will quit waffling. Thank you for listening to me for 34 minutes now. And we will catch you on Thursday for our usual light-hearted podcast and a preview of the Miami Championship at the Blue Monster in Florida. We'll look forward to seeing you. See you then.